The process is making movies, is creating the illusion, it's kind of like getting to know how a magician does their tricks.
Watch that hotel suite scene in Casino where my favorite actress is completely falling apart. The camera stays on Sharon long enough that it breaks your heart, and then forces you to ask a question that just never leaves your mind once it hits. Why didn't we get more of this? You and I know her name, and we both know the exact reason she got boxed in. One film, one iconic scene, 1992. For most casual viewers, that's where her Hollywood journey begins and ends. But as a massive fan, I know that's not the real story, not the fascinating part anyway. Because she is a fiercely talented actress. Put Sharon in front of the right director with great material, and she delivers magic that most 90s movie stars could never touch. We just didn't get to see her shine enough. And honestly, the reasons why break my heart. Because they expose a brutal Hollywood machine reaching far beyond her incredible career. People hardly talk about her legacy now, and I hate that. Let's rewind a bit. She grew up in Meadville, Pennsylvania. An absolute genius, reportedly testing with an IQ around 154. She hit Edinburgh University on a scholarship at just 15, studying writing and fine arts. Sadly, none of that brilliant brain power mattered to the film industry for a very long time. Our girl came to New York as a model, signed with Ford, crushed commercials in print, then chased acting like so many gorgeous young women had to in the early 80s. I watched her grind through tiny roles for years. A silent cameo for Woody Allen, King Solomon's Mines, Action Jackson. Endless supporting gigs propping up male action stars. They always cast her as the dangerous woman in the corner. The stunning threat nobody was supposed to trust. Finally, Paul Verhoeven cast her opposite Arnold Schwarzenegger in Total Recall back in 1990. She gets maybe 30 minutes of screen time, but man, she pops. I could immediately tell there was way more going on than that simple role ever demanded. She blends charm and utter menace like they are the exact same emotion, delivering it with a sharp precision I will never forget. The studios noticed her, but they also unfairly decided right then what kind of star they had. So many actresses passed on Catherine Trammell. The nudity, the dark material, Verhoeven's wild reputation, but my girl Sharon took the risk. Basic Instinct dominated 1992. It was a massive commercial juggernaut, completely divisive, and, for her, entirely career-defining in a rare, legendary way. As a fan, I constantly argue her performance is way sharper than critics admit. Catherine Trammell is essentially a walking projection of male anxiety over smart, sexual women. Sharon masters that ambiguity beautifully, always staying 3 steps ahead of every single man in the room. The movie knows exactly what it is doing. It made her a global icon, but tragically slapped her with a label she fought all decade to escape. Dangerous, purely erotic, totally unknowable. Those became her heavy, permanent chains. And Hollywood, seeing how much cash she printed, did the most predictable thing ever. They shamelessly kept going right back to that exact same well. Sliver in 93, The Specialist in 94 with Stallone. They built these movies purely around her basic instinct image, showcasing my idol strictly as the ultimate prize that men desired and constantly feared. Frankly, neither movie is great, and they gave her zero acting meat. Beneath all her massive fame, those gorgeous magazine covers, and huge box office hits, it frustrated me seeing her actual roles getting painfully narrow. She was getting mega famous for uninspired projects. It is that classic trap Hollywood accidentally sets for beautiful stars. You get booked nonstop, grab massive paychecks, reach peak fame, and slowly your artistic range shrinks like a windowless cell. I always rooted for the real Sharon, the dedicated actress fighting desperately for complex characters that let her prove she was so much more. You and I need to look at this closely, because right before Casino, my favorite actress pulled a serious boss move we have to unpack. The Quick and the Dead, a brilliant Sam Raimi western where she plays a badass lone gunfighter riding into town for a brutal, deadly shooting tournament. It had Gene Hackman, rookie Russell Crowe, and a young Leo DiCaprio. Sony actually refused to cast Leo, so our girl paid his salary out of her own pocket. She literally produced it. The studio didn't even want her to star, so she bought the rights, hustled it into production, and cast herself. I love that it proves exactly how hungry she was to lead. It didn't break box office records, but I respect it so much as a sheer power play. It totally set the stage for her defining cinematic masterpiece. Martin Scorsese finally cast her against every single stereotype Hollywood forced on her. She wasn't just a predator or some mystery object anymore. She became Ginger McKenna, volatile, beautifully self-destructive, heartbreakingly real, a complex woman who knows her exact worth and sees how that very truth trapped her entirely. My absolute favorite part of Casino is her acting. It is undeniably her career peak, and honestly, one of the most unfairly overlooked dramatic performances of the entire 90s. Ginger isn't an easy character to root for. She is chaotic and totally manipulative. But Sharon breathes this raw, emotional soul into her that the script alone couldn't provide. Thanks to her, you completely get why De Niro's character married her and kept crawling back. And in that heartbreaking hotel suite scene, between the shouting, I always tear up realizing Ginger was never ever going to survive the brutal mob world they threw her into. I cheered so hard when she won the Golden Globe. She scored her one and only Oscar nomination, finally getting the ultimate critical praise that most actors spend 30 years desperately chasing. But infuriatingly, the roles that followed were not Casino-level masterpieces. Look at Last Dance in '96, casting my hero as a doomed inmate. She gave an incredibly serious, controlled performance nobody watched. Diabolique the same year. Then Sphere in '98. Then The Mighty in '98, where she played a devoted mom with such gorgeous warmth and restraint that even stubborn critics had to bow down. She rightfully earned another Golden Globe nod for it, but tragically, the film totally bombed commercially. It makes my blood boil watching this pattern. Every single time Sharon proved her absolute genius, Hollywood just patted her back and went right back to offering her shallow garbage. The insulting gap between what my absolute favorite actress could achieve and what studios let her do just kept continuously widening. If you and I share this passion for defending true acting talent over cheap Hollywood labels, it would mean the world if you hit subscribe. It seems tiny, but it seriously helps us true fans push these important Hollywood stories to more people. Let's get back to our girl. You and I need to pause and look at what was happening around her, because her journey didn't happen in a vacuum. Susan Sarandon spent the 1990s proving that talent and longevity weren't mutually exclusive. 4 Oscar nods in that decade, grabbing a win for Dead Man Walking at 48. But Sarandon was always positioned differently. She was a serious talent who just happened to be beautiful. But our Sharon? She was boxed in as a beauty who happened to be a serious actress. That label, as cheap as it sounds, carries massive weight in how Hollywood traps people forever. Even Meryl Streep, at the absolute top of the food chain, fought to find decent roles in the early 90s until the bridges of Madison County saved her at 45. Fighting for good parts was a brutal survival game, even for the absolute legends. Sharon turned 43 in 2001. She finally had a new baby, her sweet son Rowan, adopted after 3 truly heartbreaking miscarriages. She had her masterpiece in Casino behind her, building a career full of work that deeply mattered to us. Then, in September 2001, she suffered a massive stroke, a devastating brain hemorrhage. She bled into her brain for 9 agonizing days before her best friend forced the doctors to look closer. And they finally stepped in just in time. The recovery was, as she called it, pure hell. She could not even read for 2 years. Memorizing a script, the absolute lifeblood of her craft, became an agonizing struggle. Vision issues, hearing loss, extreme exhaustion, and terrifying seizures. The stroke recovery support we have today simply was not there in 2001. She fought through most of that nightmare entirely alone. She had $18 million saved up from her biggest hits. By the time she was finally strong enough to check her bank accounts, it was completely gone. Leeches had drained her dry while she was fighting for her life. She actually had to remortgage her house. I lost my place in the business, she heartbreakingly confessed to Variety years later. I was like the hottest movie star, and then I had a stroke and I was forgotten. It breaks my heart hearing that, because it is not self-pity, it is just the cruel truth. Hollywood fame forgets you instantly. This ruthless town does not wait for anyone. And while my favorite star was fighting to survive, the entire movie business shifted in ways that would crush anyone. Her grueling recovery took 7 long years. She adopted 2 more boys, Laird in 2005, Quinn in 2006, beautifully building her entire world around them. The comeback movie she got was Basic Instinct 2, which just feels insulting. After her brilliant Casino run, after nearly dying, the only door Hollywood opened dragged her straight back to 1992. Naturally, it flopped hard. The movie spent years trapped in legal battles and development hell. Critics were absolutely brutal to her. It barely made a dime back. But to me, it reveals something crucial. When executives pictured my favorite actress, they only saw that white dress. But stick with me here, in 2004, she did something almost nobody talks about. A guest spot on The Practice. One single episode of television, she brought home the Emmy for Outstanding Guest Actress in a Drama Series. Her only Emmy, won in just 1 hour. It did not fix her casting problems at all, but it proves exactly how much raw talent she had when a director actually bothered to look. She rebuilt quietly, delivering a string of gorgeous performances that absolutely prove she never lost her magic, never stopped being a powerhouse on screen. Take Broken Flowers in 2005, the Jim Jarmusch film with Bill Murray. Sharon plays a tough, hippie, working-class widow. It is tiny she graces the screen for maybe 15 minutes. Critics finally realized that, given real material, she was unexpectedly hilarious and deeply sly. A beautiful reminder of her range that Hollywood tragically ignored. Then Alpha Dog in 2006. Playing the devastated mom of a kidnapped teen, she was so breathtakingly raw and unguarded aside her 90s hits rarely let her show. Then came Steven Soderbergh's Mosaic in 2018, starring our girl as this brilliantly eccentric children's book illustrator. She scored phenomenal reviews and a Satellite Award for Best Supporting Actress. The same critics who wrote her off were suddenly eating their words. The truth is undeniable. Whenever someone handed her real substance, she knocked it out of the park. She has spoken so bravely about her financial ruin, modeling again in her 50s, and grinding through commercial gigs she never would have needed if that stroke had not stolen everything. She talks about it with zero bitterness, which honestly amazes me. It shows incredible grace, or just the deep peace of a woman who already survived absolute hell. Now she is a serious painter showing in Berlin galleries. She raised 3 beautiful boys. She even talks about finally hitting the stage for some theater. She truly built a gorgeous life out of more chaos and heartbreak than anyone should bear. But what stays with me about my favorite star's legacy is absolutely not about failure. Not even close. She commanded a legendary run in the early 90s that any actor would kill to experience. She made classics we still obsessed over. And her fiercely complex, deeply human work in Casino belongs in every single conversation about the greatest acting of that entire decade. But Hollywood found just one sexy version of Sharon they could market, and they milked it for every dollar. Yet every time she proved she was a powerhouse in Casino the Mighty, or that brilliant hour on The Practice, the studios gave her polite applause instead of real roles. A nod, a Golden Globe, lovely reviews, and then back to the same old trash. The stroke just sped up the inevitable. 7 years is an eternity. But you and I should sit down and really watch Casino again. Truly watch her. Watching that explosive hotel suite scene? My heart aches wondering how high she could have flown if Hollywood actually matched her genius. Maybe that is the painful thread tying all her struggles together. It is not just about a legendary career getting tragically cut short. It is about delivering a masterclass so massive, so iconic, that the industry turns it into a cage, trapping my favorite star inside it for the rest of her life. The next actor we are diving into knows that exact same torment, giving one perfect performance that did not just launch a career, but locked the door from the outside. But that is for our next video. Today, our queen is 68 years old. She paints, she loves her 3 boys, she crushed it in Nobody 2, and she is hitting euphoria. She radiates this beautiful peace with a life that relentlessly demanded more from her than it ever deserved. Did Hollywood ever truly realize the absolute diamond they had in Sharon? I highly doubt it. But Casino is still an absolute masterpiece. If you haven't watched his incredible performance recently, trust me, it is completely worth going back to. As always, I really look forward to seeing you all in the next one.